the delegate into the meeting.
Yeah. All right, good evening. Good evening, members of council, administration, and also like to welcome those who are streaming from the comforts of home. Welcome to our public regular council meeting for March 22nd, 2022. Now called meeting to order, and we did have a closed meeting this evening, and it was at our earlier public meeting. It was a meeting at 4 o'clock. I'd like to report that that was done. And our land acknowledgement was also read out at our public council meeting earlier this evening. And so members of council, to all of you, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda is presented to you this evening. All right, hearing none, we'll have that duly recorded. Move on to the minutes. Members of council, we got the regular council meeting of March 8th, the public council meeting March 8th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented to you this evening? Councilor Tonio moves, Councilor Houston support. Any errors or omission on those minutes as presented? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Motion for to approve the supplementary items this evening. Move, Councilor Tonio, Councilor Altenhoff support. Any, okay, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to delegations. And before we bring the delegation also, we do have a site plan control agreement, a report. If I could have a motion to bring that report forward, then we'll bring our delegations and we'll pass on to our planning department to bring this all forward. Moved by Councilor Jobin, supported Councilor Altenhoff, that we bring the Greater Essex County District School Board at 13800 Tecumseh Road, that report forward. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And so now I'd like to certainly welcome our delegation, Mr. Brad Giori, the coordinator in capital projects for the Greater Essex County District School Board. And also Mr. Hillman, I will now relinquish the floor to you and to bring this report forward.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to council and all those who are with us this evening. We're quite pleased to be bringing forward a report which includes a draft site plan agreement to council for its consideration this evening. And the matter is with respect to a property on Tecumseh Road at 13800 Tecumseh Road, and just across from Dorset. Dave, if we just go to attachment 1 of the planning report, that would be helpful. This, of course, is a proposal that's been before council before, because there were some amendments to the town's official plan and zoning bylaw that was required to accommodate the Greater Essex County District School Board's new North Shore School. And they have been working on this for a number of years and along with the town to prepare the site that you can see here. So it's just west of Arlington Boulevard on the north side of Tecumseh Road. And it's just over 5 acres in size. With the prior approvals to the official plan and the zoning to accommodate the inclusion of those 2 properties you see just on the the east side of the area outlined in red. There have been 2 homes there. Those have been designated and zoned for residential use. Those were purchased by the school board, the properties demolished and incorporated into the entire site development. So with the changes to the official plan to account for those properties being used for a school site and of the zoning bylaw, the entire area outlined in red is now zoned appropriately to support the school. With that having gone through with no appeals, the school board was working through their issues in terms of funding that they have with the province of Ontario and working with the municipality around some of the significant issues related to the development of the site. With those being resolved, they have filed for site plan approval, and that necessitates consideration of an execution of a site plan agreement by council with the school board. And I'll just review, if we go to attachment 2, Dave, some of the highlights of the site plan proposal. So north would be to the top of the image on screen. You can see the Dorset Park and Tecumseh Road at the south end, and that would be the southerly limit of the property. So this is a two-story school that's being proposed with a floor area, a total footprint of about 36,000 square feet, and 32 classrooms and 4 daycare rooms are also included. On site, you can see there is parking on the property with a bus bay at the front of the building. So buses would actually enter the site and just wrap around the front of the building, and there's a loading unloading area there. So there'd be no loading and unloading on the municipal right of way, which we do see sometimes in some school designs. In addition, there's a kiss and ride area as you come onto the property and head north to the west side of the proposed school. There's an area for parents to drop off kids. So with the design, I think the board has made great efforts to try and accommodate those traffic movements that are quite common in our school areas, primarily on site. In addition to the 82 parking spaces, they are proposing 35 bicycle parking spaces. And the intersection of Dorset and Tecumseh Road will be improved with signalization and some other minor improvements to the lane approaches and so on in that area. As well, there will be a combination. You can see hard surface play areas just to the north and east of the site, as well as green space recreation fields off to the east. There's a sidewalk proposed along the easterly side of the property that would allow passage over the site up the east side that would connect over to Optimus Park, which there will be a gate at the back of the property. So it really provides nice linkage for even people living in this general neighborhood of Tecumseh, and they can walk through and get up to Optimus Park and Lakewood Park further to the north and so on. So nice linkage opportunities provided. A vinyl fence is proposed along the westerly lot line from Tecumseh Road back all the way to the end of the abutting residential property. And then from there, the site will be surrounded with chain link fencing. And garbage enclosure with landscaping and a proper enclosure is provided, as well as a municipal sidewalk across the front of the property extending easterly to all the way to the intersection at Arlington Boulevard. So that's sort of the details of the site plan. There's landscaping plan provided as well, photometrics, and detailed servicing as well, in addition to this. So just going through the report briefly, Mr. Mayor, there was a traffic study, and we can perhaps leave this image for the moment just to help us talk through this. A traffic impact study was submitted with the municipality, and it confirmed that the road network can accommodate the traffic with the improvements of a signalized intersection. In addition, servicing, the site will be fully serviced with water, wastewater, and stormwater facilities. Stormwater management was challenged for this property, but it's being accommodated. And it's also part of a larger proposal which deals with cost sharing of municipal works. And council will recall that back in 2022, Public Works brought forward a report, and which originally started in 2021, but it was enshrined into the 2022 Public Works and Engineering Capital Works projects. There's a stormwater trunk that will make its way easterly, basically from Brighton Road across to this site along Tecumseh Road, at which the school board will cost share. It benefits them from the perspective of it is easier to address their stormwater issues. You can see from just looking at the image, there's considerable hard surfacing on the site. So it comes with some challenges. So when Public Works brought that forward, it was acknowledged that there will be a number of buckets of funding sources. One would be the town of Tecumseh, one would be the school board in relation to the trunk facilities, and those works that are required specifically to support the site, intersection improvements, signalization, sidewalk, and so on, those will be 100% the school board. But in addition, another partner in this would be the County of Essex, because we are in an area that is subject to a county connecting link agreement. So they will contribute towards the center lanes of Tecumseh Road that will be reconstructed as part of the works, because the storm sewer, of course, will be going down the middle of the road, and the road will be reconstructed as part of that. So when this was considered through the Public Works report, it was acknowledged that ultimately the cost sharing arrangements would sort of manifest themselves through the site plan agreement that would come forward, which is here this evening. So there is a section in the agreement that was prepared, and Mr. Hooker was very involved, town solicitor, with the wording of this section. And it basically breaks out the cost sharing relationship, which I generally just summarized, and it makes reference to an attachment to the site plan, which breaks out every component of what's to be constructed in the public right of way by the municipality, and how the cost sharing will work between the town, the school board, and the County of Essex. And there is agreement around those ratios. So that's included in the agreement as well. In addition, we did want to advise council that you'll recall that Optimus Park is just off to the northwest of this site, and is accessible, will be accessible from the property. And there have been discussions going between the Director of Parks and Recreation and the school board around the whole notion of shared facilities, both for the school board to possibly share our park facilities, but for the town and service providers to make use of the facilities that would be on the school site. So those discussions are ongoing, very positive. And if they lead to some form of resolved arrangement, it would come back to council through Mr. Anthony's department. So in summary, Mr. Mayor, we're quite pleased to bring forward the site plan agreement. We do have a recommendation that is attached to the report, which I will just summarize. That it's recommended that a bylaw authorizing the execution of the Greater Essex County District School Board Site Plan Agreement, satisfactory and form to the town solicitor, which allows for the development of the two-story school at 13,800 Tecumseh Road, be adopted. Subject to the following: prior to the town's execution, the final stormwater management design and stormwater management calculations and associated site service drawings being approved by the town, the owner executing the site plan control agreement, and the owner posting security for performance pursuant to section 6.1 of the agreement, and that the execution of such further documents as are called for by the site plan control, including but not limited to acknowledgement and directions for registered site plan control agreements, that they also be authorized, and that any minor modifications related to these matters by the mayor and the clerk, and minor modifications or as required by the Director of Development Services may be approved as necessary and appropriate upon conferring with the town solicitor, be authorized. Long recommendation, I apologize, but that's it. And Mr. Giori is here from the board to help address any questions, and I'm happy to also assist in that matter. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hillman, for the report. And I'll open it up to members of council. Any questions to Mr. Giori? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Bichetti.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Giori, for coming this evening. I'm not sure if this question is for Mr. Hillman or not, but a couple questions. One is more interested in the community use proposal with Mr. Anthony. I'm not sure, maybe he can answer. What are the school board looking for? Is it during summertime community use agreement similar to what we've seen with other school boards? I know we do have a French high school, we have a Catholic elementary school. Will that impede where they would have exclusive rights during the daytime and not have other school uses to be able to use that property? I'm just curious to see what kind of arrangements is being requested in that regard.
So through Mayor McNamara to the Deputy Mayor, the discussions are very early, but they're not unlike any other agreement we have. The school has their own green space, which they would use mostly through the day during the school. The town would then have the ability, to utilize that green space in the evening or outside of school hours, summer, weekends. The school right now is just looking for some green space. It should not interfere with any of the programs. Again, it would be through the day. Right now, currently, there's the green space, which Tecumseh Soccer uses just off the hill, which is not used Monday to Friday through the day during school time. So there's no concerns whatsoever of them using any of that green space and affecting any of our user groups, baseball or soccer. But again, we're very early in the process, and we're also tying this into a couple other schools that we may use some partnerships with the public board.
So the intent is not for the school to use that, for example, when they have their nutrition break, activity outdoor break, where the kids are going out for recess and utilizing the park grounds. That's more of a different kind of use if they want to take a class or a team or sport out there, right? Is
That's
there any-
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question is as you know, most schools, when they're built, all of a sudden, the interest is there. You get a lot of enrollment. And before you know it, we had an issue with Vista there where you already have portables. It has a school board planned a contingency plan in terms of if that were the case. And obviously, that would be good news with enrollment. However, we're on that site if that were needed, where those portables or porta packs go? Or has that been contemplated? Just thinking in the future there.
All right, through you, Mayor McNamara, I can address that. So in terms of the portables here, we haven't shown them on the site plan. We have oftentimes showed them on during the application process. However, here we have not shown them. We struggled, as you guys may have recalled, to get those additional 2 properties on the site there to the east. So if they were to be added, we would definitely look at adding those in the green space just off the hard surface. But at this time, we're anticipating with boundary changes and everything, trying to avoid that. But obviously, as you mentioned, it's always welcoming when the enrollment does increase.
Very good. Okay. The last part then, if all goes well with approvals, what are we looking at for construction in terms of timelines in that regard?
So we've actually worked closely with Brian and his team, and I just would like to thank them for all the hard work and the efforts that have went forth to get us to this stage here. We actually are tender ready. We're looking to tender the project this week. So we're looking on the 24th to issue the tender. And if everything lines up with the town's tender for the road reconstruction, we'd look to be starting construction as early as May. And and then to kind of conclude that, we'd be looking for an occupancy date of January of 2024.
Thank you.
On that, Mr. Hillman, I think you have just.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, if I could I was speaking with Mr. Bartnick today, and he's confirmed that we're going out to tender. And I neglected, and I apologize, to note in the report, we made reference to the fact the tender will come back to council for consideration. And there is, and equally would like to thank Brad and the team at the school board for the coordination and the efforts. And I think we all see the value in this school being in the town. We will be doing some heavy coordination around the timing of these tenders and construction works. It will be quite a busy area, which is a good thing. It will come with some frustrations, but we will be working to coordinate those. So I think council should expect to see something back from Public Works within the next month or so with respect to the tender that we have out for the Public Works related to this. Thank you.
Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Mr. Gorey and Mr. Hillman, and I'm sure there's many others involved. It's good to see you're all working together, and I very much, I'm sure we all, and most importantly, our residents will really appreciate that with all the collaborations. It's good to see how this is moving forward, and I just had some questions with regards, more so kind of on attachment 2. I know the report's been reviewed by the fire chief, but I just wanted to ensure there's no concerns with regards to first responder vehicles or perhaps large fire trucks getting around some of those tight curves. Just want to make sure that was kind of considered and is that's one of a few questions I had. If you don't mind, maybe I'll ask them as a volley of questions if it's all right with you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead. This is the
Mr.
time.
Mayor, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll start, and Brad might want to add. And thank you, Wade. The fire chief's here. We do review with our fire division, those types of issues. The site plan does include, granted at the detail you're seeing it, you probably can't see there is a fire road identified, those types of turning templates are used in the design of the site specifically to accommodate those movements. And Mr. Bondi might be able to speak to even the idea of bylaws to protect those passage roads. But yes, it is incorporated into the design and reviewed by his team.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Just trying to think ahead to the future. Oh, excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to try to think toward to the future. And again, maybe no response now, but EV charging, something to consider. Obviously, I think it would be cheaper to wire it now than it will be a few years down the road. If you're kind of considering that, I just leave that out, but I thought it was something that's important because, and I think a lot of these public spaces having such capabilities will be a good thing. With regards to the signalized intersection that's proposed, which I think is a very good idea. Just want to make sure, again, it's to accommodate pedestrians, cyclists, everything, which I think is a great idea. I'm just trying to understand. I know there's going to be sidewalks. It was indicated on the northerly side of Tecumseh, so the south side of the area. How is the link? Is there going to be kind of pedestrian walkways to the south side where there's that current existing walkway?
I think Mr. McCardle's there, but I believe there's going to be the storm sewer that's going to be built on the south side. And I think the trail system there will be refreshed and renewed.
And
Hillman?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. McCurdle's here if he needs to add anything, but certainly that signalized intersection will be fully contemplating vehicles, pedestrians and bicycles. So you will have dedicated pedestrian crossings. And the trail on the south side will be adjusted possibly, but that will be the main east-west movement across Tecumseh Road as it is today. And the sidewalk that was discussed is across the front of the property over to Arlington, so that it will connect, that sort of neighborhood to the north. We'll be able to go to the school along the north side. The balance of the community would get to the site from the south side cross at the signalized intersection, if that helps you understand it. But it would be fully accommodated at the intersection for all types of movements.
Appreciate it. I'm just trying to think when it gets to Arlington, again, on the north side now, where that new sidewalk's put in, on the north side of Tecumseh, south side of the facility, it's going to go all the way to Arlington, but there's no, some form of a walkway or a pedestrian walkway or something have to be integrated there, because currently there's nothing there. There is a walkway on the east side of Arlington that goes between kind of the north side and south side of Tecumseh, but it would be kind of a bit of a sidewalk to just the end of Arlington. I just want to make sure that we're implementing the appropriate. And again, I guess that's perhaps more the town side, not really this site, but just something to consider. Much appreciated. I just wanted to clarify one last thing, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. And I apologize if I heard you wrong, Mr. Hillman, but I thought you said that walkway that's going to go on the site. I thought you mentioned the east side. The report does say on the west side. I just want to confirm that it is the west side. And I apologize if I heard you incorrectly.
You probably heard me correctly. I can't say for certain, but I should have said the west side. Yeah.
Okay.
It is
Okay,
definitely on the west side. Yeah. So it'll go right up along the parking lot and connect in. So if I said east side, apologies. You are
No
correct.
troubles.
Good,
I just
good
wanted
catch.
to clarify. Thank
Good
you. And
catch.
that will link then, like you say, to the Optimist Park facilities.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments? I don't see any, and just a comment from me. And I know, Mr. Jorfy, and the school board's been quite a journey on this school over the last few years. But I don't like to speak for all the council, but I'm sure they would agree that we're very pleased that the Amigo, the old school, and whatever the new one's going to be named, it's staying in the town of Tecumseh. And I know, for one, know the importance of elementary schools in particular in neighborhoods are the foundational piece of any good community. And so I certainly want to thank the board and their wisdom and for citing that site and looking forward to a really good continued partnership with the school board and in addressing, the needs that are going to be for our citizens. And I, again, thank you. And just pass that on to Director Kelly and certainly all of your senior staff, and also to the board chair, Alicia Higginson, as well. And that we really appreciate the fact that we're going to have a brand new school in our community. And so we're not losing a school. We're gaining a bigger school. So certainly want to thank you for that. Okay, nothing further. There's the report has been brought forward. It was read out by Mr. Hillman. So if I could have a motion. Oh, sorry, Councilor Dowie.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. And perhaps this isn't the appropriate time, given we're dealing with the site plan, but I know a question that has come up and associated with this development is what happens to the old site? And I'm wondering whether there might be a lens in the future of what the board's plans might be, if Mr. Gorey might have any insight.
Through you, Mayor McNamara. Yeah, we haven't had much discussion on it. Typically, we hold on to the buildings for 2 years after we dispose of them and they become a surplus. But at this point, I can't speak on to say for certain, but I don't think that's been the situation yet. It hasn't been discussed. So at this point, I wouldn't really have much more to comment on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Then on the report, moved by Councilor Houston and Councilor Altenhoff. No further questions or comments on the motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous. All right, get the shovel ready. Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, guys. I just want to say how much we appreciate it, and I will definitely pass on the messages that you give us. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, move on to communications, members of council. We've got 8 pieces of communications here. If I could have a motion to receive. Councilor Tonio, Councilor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. We have no communications for actions, but is there any communications that members of council would like to address? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to committee minutes. We have the minutes of the Rural Broadband Advisory Committee, December the 8th, in a motion to approve the minutes. Councilor Jobin, Councilor Houston. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Jobin.
Thank you. Through you. Just a comment on the fiber. Our MNSI is installing on Kenner Road 46 from Old Castle 46 through to Maidstone along some of Kenner Road 34. Just that's a start. Just want to let everyone know that.
All right, thank you, Councillor. And it's a good start, and we've got to keep feeding that fiber. Okay. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Second committee minutes is the quarter revision. That was March 8th. That was the Antea drain, and a motion to approve the minutes. Deputy Mayor Bichetti and Councillor Houston. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Okay, we'll move on to reports. We have the development services, the year-end permits and training report. So I'll call upon the director to summarize the report. Or I think yes, Mr. Hillman.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. Caught me off guard there. This evening, we have a report with respect to the status of 2021 permits and we're quite pleased. We had another fairly good year. In it, you'll see there's a summary of the types of permits, construction value first, which was at $53 million, was included in a total of 91 million, comprising 3 multi-story residential buildings and 1 long-term care home. And the council, I think, is quite aware that a considerable amount of activity in the residential form in the municipality has really been of a medium high density style over the last couple of years. Number of permits, roughly around the same, a slight reduction of about 3%. We had 345 total permits in 2020, and that was 334 in 2021, so almost the same. And with that is a summary of the types of permits that were granted. Again, 3 multi-story residential permits were issued for 180 dwelling units. For the same period, we had 11 dwelling units in the prior year and 13 single dwelling units this year. So very similar in terms of the totals, and also equally very similar from 2020 to 21 for the total number of housing units that were provided. But again, very much oriented toward multi-unit residential. We have summarized in the report some of the training that took place over the year with respect to on-site sewage systems, course 2012, fire protection 2012, and there was our staff attended the 65th annual meeting, training sessions of Ontario building officials, of course, virtually last year. Financial implications, the permit revenue, which of course permit fees are set aside and held for use for building services purposes, so staff and other infrastructure required to process permits and to undertake inspections. So the revenue reported based on permits was at 590,000, which is about 4%, 22,000 higher than what had been budgeted at 567,000. So it was a fairly busy year, and that's reflected in the report. So we're just seeking receipt of the report by council. And I'm happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hillman. On the report, any questions or comments? Councilor Tonio.
Just a question through you to Mr. Hillman. I had inquired, someone wants to put a swimming pool in, and they want to know how long it would take for a permit, roughly 2-3 weeks. Do you know how long it would take for a swimming pool permit? Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So normally that would be up to 2 weeks. Of course, we have had some staffing issues recently, so we are struggling with some of those, but we're making some accommodations for that. But that would be the norm for something like a swimming pool,
Okay.
if the drawings are complete and all the information is provided.
Correct. Yes. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Doward.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Hillman. Just correct me if I'm wrong. It looks like even on the permit side, if not for that we didn't collect portable sign permits last year, we would have had a record year for permits otherwise. Is that am I reading that right?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further questions or comments? Okay, on the report, moved by Councilor Altenhoff and Councilor Dowie, support. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Financial Services is our next report, and it's a statement of council remuneration, expenses paid in 2021. And that's usually a request from Municipal Affairs. Pretty standard. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bichetti, supported by Councilor Houston. Any questions or comments? Councilor Altenhoff, Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to check through you, Your Worship, to administration. I just want to clarify, is it a typing error on the remuneration for one of the councilors? Just noting it to be a bit different than all the others. And I don't know, I obtained my PDF copy from the town website. But maybe there was something different there, lieu and pension. I was just kind of curious.
I have to defer that to Mr. Kitsos.
Thank you, Mayor, and through the mayor to Councillor Altanoff. Can you be specific with what you're referring to?
I'm just looking at the council remuneration, the salaries for last year. Typical salary for the councillor is 20,183. One of the other councillors received 20,783.
Okay, yep. So bear with me. I do have that detail.
And I don't know if that's associated with the loop pension or something. I just wanted to clarify, was it a typo or something? I don't know.
So through the mayor to Councillor Altanoff, it's not a typo. It is accurate, but off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly what that was. But I can pull up the support if you just give me a moment.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, and then I'm noticing through your worship also for Councillor Job, and again, 29 now, I'm sorry.
Okay, so sorry for the delay there. So there is, I believe that is in lieu payments. Let me just confirm. Yeah, so that would be the 200 payment, pardon me, daily payment in lieu for attendance of conferences or matters of that nature.
For the Councillor Houston, and for the other councillor, the $1,000 difference?
And
Perhaps is that associated with another responsibility? I'm not worried. I just want to make sure these aren't typing errors or anything like that.
yeah, so yeah, I can confirm that they are not typos. Those are accurate, and they're for various expenditures, as I had mentioned.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Dowd.
Thank you, Worship. Once again, I just want to be proactive, advise that I sit on the Essex County Library Board, which provides an honorarium of $100 per meeting. So that would end up being about $1,200 for the year.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Oppose if any, that's carried. Thank you. Next, 3A, which is the legislative clerk services. That's the corporate use of resources. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So with me this evening is two of my election team members, Jennifer Alexander and Christina Hebert. And we are reporting out this evening on two matters. First being the use of corporate resources for election purposes. In compliance with the Municipal Act, the public funds and resources are not to be used for any election-related purposes, including the promotion of or opposition to the candidacy of a person for elected office. The Act requires that before May 1st of an election year, municipalities adopt rules and procedures with respect to the use of municipal or board resources during the election campaign period. Council first adopted Policy 69 governing the use of corporate resources for election purposes in 2010 to provide a consistent and transparent approach on the use of town resources during a municipal campaign period. In each election year, the policy is reviewed. The policy has been reviewed in advance of the 2022 elections And the purpose of this report is to advise on amendments recommended to the policy as a result of this review for legislative compliance, past election experiences, and best practices. The recommended revisions relate to the definition of social media, as it's been revised to clarify that it can involve various forms of online participation and public engagement. Candidates may use their personal social media accounts for election campaign purposes, however, cannot use websites, domain names, or social media funded by the town. The scope of the policy is recommended to be expanded for candidates and registered third parties of provincial and federal elections where applicable. Additionally, we've included the excluded use of the town's logo and town's word mark. We are recommending that the amended policy on use of corporate resources for election purposes as appended to this report be approved. And subject to council's approval of the amended report, it will be communicated to all staff and committee and board members, as well as candidates during the nomination period, which I should mention commences on Monday, May 2nd, 2022. Happy to answer any questions from the members.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Moy. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Dowd.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to the clerk. I know we've seen the proliferation of videos, especially for use on social media, and I've seen it our town hall being a popular site for such videos. So I guess I'm hoping, for anybody who might be watching or who might be considering candidacy, what fair use would be of the town hall's grounds or the logo or kind of the hard assets that are publicly available?
Well, the town's logo cannot be used in campaign for campaign purposes. Just like any other town facility, I mean, it's, we can't really restrict, videoing of those town facilities for election campaign purposes. When candidates are out there campaigning, I think that's difficult for us to say you can't use town facilities. The policy does state that you can't, there is no use of town facilities for campaigning purposes, i.e., election campaign headquarters or election functions, etc.
Okay, thank you, Worship. And thank you, Laura. I appreciate the response.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments to Ms. Moy? If not, then a motion to adopt the report. Deputy Mayor Bichetti and Councilor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, next also from our Director of Corporate and Council Services, Election Audit Committee. And again, Ms. Moy.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we are reporting to you on the requirements under the Municipal Elections Act, which requires every council to establish a compliance audit committee on or before October 1st of an election year. The purpose of the establishment of the committee is that the Act permits an elector who is entitled to vote in an election and who believes on reasonable grounds that a candidate or a registered third-party advertiser has contravened a provision of the Act relating to election campaign finances to apply for a compliance audit of a candidate's or registered third party's election campaign finances. The duties of the committee relating to the compliance audit application process, as set out in the Act, are summarized in this report. And the purpose of this report is to advise that applications will be called for applicants to the committee, ideally from persons with an accounting or auditing background, legal expertise, academic education, such as college or university professors with expertise in political science or local government, and or other individuals with knowledge of the Municipal Elections Act due to the complexity of the election campaign finances. I should note that applications will not be accepted from employees or officers of the municipality, members of council, any persons who are candidates in the 2020 election or registered third parties in the 2020 election. The committee is to be comprised of not less than 3 and not more than 7 members, and the terms of reference for the committee based on the provisions of the Act and our procedural bylaw have been provided with this report. The term of the committee is the same as the term of the office of the council that takes office following the next election, which will commence on November 15, 2022. We will be issuing a notice of call for applications following this evening's meeting, and we are recommending the council accept the committee terms of reference as presented and support the calling of applications for appointments to the Election Audit Committee. A report on the applications that are received will be presented to council at the May 24th meeting for consideration on appointments to the committee.
All right. Questions or comments? Hearing none, then a motion to adopt the report is presented. Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Jobin. No further questions. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have a couple bylaws on this evening's agenda. The first being bylaw 2022-15, which is to delegate certain authorities during a lame duck council period during the 2022 municipal elections, as was reported on the last meeting of council. We also have bylaw 2022-16, updating appointments to various statutory positions within the corporation. We also have bylaw 2022-17, which is amends the zoning bylaw as it relates to the property on Walker Road at 6067 Walker Road, as previously reported to council. We're respectfully asking for first and second readings to these bylaws, and if appropriate, third and final.
Moved by Councillor Jobin, supported Councillor Tonio on 2 readings. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Then 3 readings is now in order. Councillor Houston and supported by Councillor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Unfinished business. None. Okay, move on to new business. Members of council, our next meeting is actually scheduled for April 12, 2022, but we know it conflicts with municipal business on that particular day. And so we're looking at moving up the April 12, 2022 regular meeting of council to be moved to Thursday, April 7th at 7 p.m. Motion. Councillor Jobin, Councillor Tonio. Questions or comments? Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And just to confirm, that would be a virtual meeting again?
Correct.
Through your 2. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yep. So on the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to, I need a confirmatory bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our meeting this evening. If I could have 3 readings, Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Any notices of motion? Deputy Mayor Bichetti.
Sorry, Your Worship, I had just one item under new business.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just had, because it kind of went by unfinished and new. Just a question for Mr. McCardle. Those road traffic calming column pylons that we had, are there any timelines for North Talbot? We're getting complaints. I'm getting phone calls regarding, vehicles speeding. That I know it's an issue all over, but they're head passing school buses, and we've got parents that are kind of standing in the roadway to block cars from passing buses. That's an OPP issue. But in terms of, are there any plans to put them along there near Weston Park?
Through you, Your Worship, to the Deputy Mayor. Yes, we did have it in the operations budget this year to purchase more of the flexible barriers. We will be installing them back in some of the key locations that we identified last year that they were successful. Weston Park was one area where we did see a lot of them get hit. Now that's not indicative of whether, people hit them or whether they disappeared on their own at night. But we will be installing the flexible barriers back throughout the town. And we can certainly make sure that Weston Park is one of the areas that we do target with them.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, through you, your worship, to Deputy Mayor Bichetti, time of day, is this in the morning collection or in the evening? Is it?
Yeah, it's first thing in the morning. I would say 7:15 to 7:45, just as
Old
the school
Castle
buses
traffic.
are. Yeah, and they're in, and 3:15, 3:30. They're rushing out again. It's more of a concern of the school bus. Again, cars are cars. But when they have a lack of disregard for school bus transportation and they just head past them, and that's the concern there.
Thank you. I'll bring that to the attention of the OPP staff sergeant.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? No, no notices of motion. Then our next meeting is a special council meeting for strategic priorities workshop. That's for 4:30, scheduled for March 29th. No further business. Then adjournment is now in order. Councillor Tonio and Councillor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any? So our evening's work is completed. I want to certainly thank council, administration, and for your indulgence this evening, as well as thank the viewing audience that were here streaming on our proceedings. So we certainly want everyone to certainly stay safe as we move on to the next chapter of certainly the pandemic and so forth, but also keeping your thoughts and prayers to our folks in the Ukraine, and we wish them in particular to be as safe as they can, but hopefully that come to an end to this crisis and try to get some more normalcy at certainly that part of the world, and also keeping our thoughts, as well as our troops that are in the Balkans, and those who are on their way there, to make sure that they're kept safe. And so keep them in your thoughts and certainly your prayers. So with that, members of council, I bid you good night.